Hello, I'm Andrea John Smith. I am a Creating the Future early adopter, and I run a bustling consulting practice from Seattle, Washington called Andrea John Smith Consulting. In this video blog, I want to share a little case study about a project I am working on with one of my wonderful clients, an anti-poverty organization that works statewide here in Washington State. I was hired to help them create a development strategy after they had a single funder for about 7 years that had funded all of their work as an intermediary. They were finally told that that funder had come to the end of that and would like them to find a strategy to transition away from having them as a sole funder. So they asked me to help them figure that out. Like most organizations, they had a really strong instinct for grant seeking. And while grant seeking is going to be a feature of their model going forward, the insight we really worked toward was that grants alone would really set up kind of a starvation cycle and not really set up sustainability for this organization. It wouldn't put them in a position to be able to think about innovation or to be able to invest in infrastructure and communications and some of the more edgy policy work that they wanted to do. So they really needed to be thinking a little bit more broadly than having a lot of restricted grants. Economic opportunity for all is the vision of this organization. So in order to advance with confidence and stability and to be able to seize opportunities that made the most mission sense, the organization decided that it really needed to have a robust base of individual supporters, and it had never had that ever before. So most importantly, as we crafted the strategy to achieve that, we really looked at what the organization narrative was all about. As an organization that had always sort of had one funder, the narrative of the organization had become a little bit inside baseball. They were sort of talking to people who already spoke their language, and they were very organization centric, talking about them and what they were doing rather than really the world. So we crafted a strategy around this vision of economic opportunity for all. And as we looked at the conditions that it would be needing to be in place for that vision to be possible, what really became clear is that the community would need to be engaged. And that community would need to really share the values at the core of this work. So community engagement became a central feature of achieving the vision. So it really was less about resource development than it really was about how we are not going to be able to get from point A to point B achieving our vision unless we are able to engage with, talk with actual red-blooded people in the world and bring them into conversation with us. For this organization, that was a little bit like saying to someone that had never learned to swim that you should now go over to the deep end of the pool and jump right in. It was a bit scary and daunting, and at the same time, this executive director, who is a wonderful visionary person, was really open and embraced the idea. She really got that we had to, as an organization, walk our talk and really be about the values that we said that we were about in every aspect of the mission delivery, and that you really couldn't have kind of fundraising, community engagement over here as an add-on, and then mission delivery over here. So these things all had to be an integral part of one another and reflect one another. So that's what we set out to do, is to bring together a cohesive strategy that would enable this organization to start to create a wonderful base of champions, and also to really start to help play a role in shifting the way that people think about people in poverty. The main, constituent element of our approach would be to spark community conversation around what it would take to create our vision. And we dubbed this strategy the small to medium to big strategy. So small conversations, medium-sized conversations, big conversations. So one-on-one, small groups, big groups. So starting small, we really mean small. We were talking about ourselves. We needed to talk to ourselves, with ourselves, figure out how to language what it is that we think, what we believe, talk about framing the issues that our mission relates to, how it plays out in the world. Start having discussions within the organization, at the board meetings, among the staff, watching movies, documentaries and talking about them, reading books and talking about them, anything that would get us talking about the issues, so that we started to form those muscles to start being able to have conversations with people about the things that we worked on. And from there, we agreed that what we would do is we would sit down and we would start to think about, okay, so who are the people in each of our worlds that we think would be excited to be a part of something like this? And one-on-one, they met with me and sat down and just talked with me about who those people were, who were those networks, or who were those groups, who were those church groups, who were those book groups, who were those kinds of organizations that people are connected to, that the organization that I was working with needed to know, needed to be related to, needed to be connected to. Who are the people that we needed to be connected to? Who are the people that might have an interest, people that maybe had no prior knowledge but might be predisposed to learning about it. So we started to amass kind of like a community or tribal map, thinking about who we thought maybe our tribe could be, and thinking about where we ought to be thinking about having conversations get set up. Conversations at lunch, conversations at dinner, conversations after work, any kind of conversation. We started to encourage our board members and staff to basically set up those conversations, and everybody had a certain number of conversations they were trying to create in their world to generate heat, to get conversations started. And so as we started to work on those conversations, the next feature, the big sort of culminating feature in the medium bucket, was this thing we call living room conversations, or some people call them parlor talks or parlor conversations. And this is pretty much an old-fashioned hanging out with people and talking about issues in their living room. Nothing really new on that front, but in this world where we often think of how we create community is like buying a list or having a giant gala. Really, having conversations in living rooms was the tactic that we decided that we wanted to work towards. So these smaller one-on-one conversations are building toward these quarterly conversations where we'd get maybe maximum 20 people in a room, hosted by one board member, and it would feature a person who had a really compelling story to tell. Perhaps someone that worked in the trenches that would be able to tell a story about some of the wacky things that are really easy to change, that we could actually change. Being able to tell stories about some of the amazing opportunities for us to make simple things and adjust simple things that would make profound differences in people's lives. And having those kinds of conversations that a group of 20 people can have, where you sit after you listen to someone like that and you get a chance to just ask questions and challenge your assumptions and listen to other people in the room and just be inspired. That is what we propose to do on a quarterly basis, kind of building from those one-on-one conversations. And so, it's basically a learning opportunity designed for people to, talk and keep talking after they leave. And at the end of these conversations, there's not a financial ask. There's no, and so thank you for coming, and no, we'd like you to take out your checkbooks. There's none of that. At the end of the conversations, what we are doing is we're asking people if they are open to staying involved in the discussion, and whether they have an interest in engaging further, such as would they like to host a living room conversation of their own, or would they like to talk with us about a way that they would feel interested in engaging further? Do they have a particular passion point that came up that they'd like to talk with us about, that we could talk with them about and see if there's a way to plug that into what we're doing and to help us further what we're working on. So our aim in these is truly to make friends, to listen and to find out what is really resonating, and to connect with people who want to help us really build momentum around the work. So meanwhile, back at the ranch, while we're doing this, we are getting our house in order so that when people are engaging, as they decide they wish to be engaged with us, and some of them engaging financially, we are ready. We are absolutely equipped with a clear set of ways for people to be engaged that's authentic and meaningful. And if they decide to give to us financially, they're having an experience of giving that is so wonderful. When they give, they get a fantastic response from us that has a story that connects to what we've talked about. They continue to hear from us in a way that is not about continuing to ask them for money, but that's about continuing to keep them apprised of how their contribution is playing a role in our work. So those are the kinds of systems that we're putting into place so that when people do engage, they have a consistently excellent experience of us that reflect how we feel about them. And how we value them. So that's really what we're doing behind the scenes as we're having those conversations. We have made a very intentional decision not to have something like a gala. So in our town, probably it's like this in your town. Every spring around April, there's the event season, and you'll see a philanthropist in the parking lot of some event, and the person will look kind of bedraggled and say, I am so tired. This is my 4th event this week. I really can't take this anymore. So there's a little bit of an overdue on the numbers of galas and auctions and things out there in the world. So this organization, my client has decided, nope, we're not doing that. We have really decided that what we're going to be doing is kind of aiming for our version of Engagement Olympics, which is an education event that would look like kind of a TED Talk with 2 or 3 speakers that are each speaking about 20 minutes, and then afterwards getting an opportunity to do breakout groups, so you can have an opportunity for small groups to have Q&A with the different speakers, to give people an opportunity to really engage with those brilliant minds, ask questions, and get beyond the sound bites and the shallow platitudes, and really have something unique, have a really unique and interesting experience that will cause people to buzz. So everything, our entire strategy is basically about reflecting who we are, having the kinds of activities that reflect our values and who we are, what we care about, and engaging with people in an authentic and meaningful way that will give them something that we think they crave. At the end, all of this, embedded in all of this is, of course, a really wonderful social media thread. We are going to be doing monthly video blogs, like the one you're watching, hopefully a better one than this, that feature one of the conversations that we've had that month. So we'll be having our executive director interview one of the fabulous people that we've had a conversation with, and putting that out there on our website. And we will be, of course, using Facebook and Twitter and, tweeting throughout our events and having people engage through social media and join us in those platforms so we can be building those platforms. This is our aim. Our goal is to make a lot of friends. We were very intentional this year, in our first year, that we have no financial goal attached to it in the budget, but we do have an unbudgeted, aspiration. We would really like people to make financial contributions. We would really like people to be moved to give. We just didn't put it in the budget. We decided not to put ourselves into that kind of pressure in the first year. So I'll let you know how it goes. Hopefully I'll be back. And the first living room conversation is in October, so stay tuned.